So I learned how to inject people that couldn't do it themselves. Either their veins were too far gone, or they just didn't know how, or they wanted to get hit in the neck where the rush is faster. So I learned how to do that by practicing. I was already kind of good at it just from being an IV drug user. You learn how to do it, but I made that my hustle, full-time hustle.
Dr. Budd.
Really, yeah. Some people called me the doctor, and that's what Kensington was. I got a list this long of people that didn't make it out of there.
Yeah.
From any number of things: overdoses, shootings, stabbings, beaten to death. Sepsis was a big one with the trank that was moving into the drug supply. I'm sleeping, and I feel something crawling in my chest, and I start petting it. I'm like, oh, it's a kitty. And then I felt its feet. I thought that's not a cat's foot. And I opened my eyes, and there's a rat staring me right in the face.
Take one of them as a pet or anything like that?
They're not nice. No, they're not nice.
Well, that one that was right up on you, he seemed like he was trying to be friendly,
He was stealing my heat.
This is The Comeback.
So this is our first episode. We've rebranded, we did trash talk episodes. They were a lot of fun, but we always ended up talking about comebacks. It's like we always ended up going there. So it's like, well, why don't we just, actually, just make that our target, and look at that fucking AI generated image there.
It is pretty good.
I had to do a lot of work on that, actually. It's the chains just
Should have been
AI.
Yeah, right.
I guess AI's
been
never
way
seen
skinnier.
Anyone breaking chains before.
Way less muscles.
Skinnier gut.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh shit! I bring your book. I'll put a screenshot up of it, on there. Put your link in and everything,
Cool.
in the thing. So today we got our co-host Bly. I'm Draper. This is The Comeback, and we got Budd Rodney, who has made a fucking spectacular fucking comeback, man.
Which camera do I look at?
This is actually going to be your. No, that one is your. That's your.
Single.
But wait, I don't know. I think my dyslexia is kicking in. I think it's that one.
That's the wide shot.
That's the wide shot. Yeah, that's that one right there. That's your guy right there. So
Right here.
Yep.
and this guy.
All right.
So you wrote a book.
Yeah.
Huh?
No.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Am I pointing at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. So you wrote a book, Kensington Beach. I skimmed through it, man, and I got a question for you, right?
Yeah.
How big was that rat that you thought was a cat?
Not quite New York, not Wilkes-Barre, so somewhere in between. It was big.
Your pet.
Yeah.
Tell me about this, man.
So Britt and I, had decided to move down the block a little bit because I had just gotten into a scrap with a guy who had taken her money. I fought him over it, and it was a little bit. There was some tension.
Just slide the mic a little closer to you. Just
Sure.
slide it.
Yeah.
Like
Good?
towards you. Like, see how I got the teeth right here on the end of the table?
Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
Boom. Boom.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You hearing him in your mic?
Yeah, I hear. You're not hearing him?
Mm-mm.
No,
I mean, I can.
I could hear. I got you
Yeah.
and you.
Yeah. I got you.
I can't hear him.
I
in my
got
ears
you,
at all,
babe.
but
Well, how's that make you feel? That's
a little
tough.
left out.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
tough.
Yeah.
You want to trade?
Oh,
Or are you going to have these guys?
Nah, it's all right.
Yeah. All right. All right. So, so where were we? We're talking about rats.
Rats. Yeah. So there was tension on the block because I just fought this guy for taking Britt's money. So I figured, instead of like getting stomped out in my sleep or something, let's let it cool down for a couple of days. So we went down the block a little bit closer to the park, and there's a lot of rats in the park. So we're on this block, and we set up our bedroll, which was cardboard and, you know, a couple dirty blankets. And I'm sleeping, and I feel something crawl into my chest, and I start petting it, you know. I'm like, oh, it's a kitty, you know. And then I felt its feet. I'm like, oh, that's not a cat's foot. And I opened my eyes, and there's a rat staring me right in the face. And I freaked out, you know. I jumped up and brushed it off me. Britt woke up. She's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "There's a rat was on me, man." Yeah, yeah. It happened a lot. Rats were a problem that you dealt with. In the park, in Needle Park, actually, there's like a concrete platform. So it's like I don't know what you call it, like a causeway that goes up towards the library. And underneath it, the rats had dug out like an entire city. And it's like probably 15 feet deep underneath this causeway. And I shined a flashlight in there once, and there were hundreds of rats, maybe thousands, a lot more than I could count at a glance, just crawling around. Like it was crazy, man. And
it didn't dawn on you maybe take one of them as a pet or anything like that?
they're not nice. No, they're not nice.
Well, that one that was right up on you, he seemed like he was trying to be friendly, you know?
He was stealing my heat.
So this was in the wintertime, yeah?
Yeah. It was like fall, about now. So the nights were cold, days were tolerable. Yeah.
You know, there's this like a study that I guess if you teach like a rat a trick, let's say in United Kingdom, and you teach them the same colony one thing, another colony, they'll inherently know how to do that
That's
stuff across the earth.
100th monkey theory.
Yeah, it's noetics. The field of noetics, yeah.
It's wild.
And they did that shit with monkeys and sweet potatoes.
Not
Sweet
people,
potatoes, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Not people.
They did it with people.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, they did with
It does work with people.
Yeah.
Here, I'll explain it to you. Since we're getting off topic, we might as well go all the way, you know?
Yeah.
So they did that with the sweet potatoes and the monkeys. They would throw them on the beaches, and the monkeys loved the sweet potatoes, but they didn't like the sand. So somewhere along the way, one of the younger monkeys figured out that you can rinse the sweet potato off in the water to get the sand off, and started eating it. None of the older monkeys would chime in, but the younger monkeys picked up on this on the one island where they were doing this. Once it hit like what they call a critical mass, which is like a tipping point, I think it was 30% or 40% or 18%, whatever the hell it is. Once it hits a certain number, then suddenly all of the monkeys on all of the islands started rinsing their sweet potatoes off in the water. So there's no way they could have communicated this to each other, but yet they all figured it out.
Yeah.
So then they tried it with people. They had a picture with faces on it, and there was hundreds of faces hidden. And they brought in a group in Australia and had them sit there and try to find all the faces. They could find like 15, 20. Then they aired it over the BBC in London and had people call in. And as they found them, they were just displaying them on the screen so that everyone could see where they were. They got up to about 100. They brought in another control group down in Australia that had no knowledge of the broadcast in the BBC, and had them all find the faces. And suddenly everybody was able to find hundreds of the faces.
Yeah.
So it works. All right. Now, where were we?
Global consciousness. Rats.
Rats in Kensington.
Yeah, rats in Kensington.
You know, so we were saying, man, like not a lot of people come back from that fucking place, man. You know?
Yeah. No. You know, I liken it to like a video game almost, to the final boss of a video game. You know, you either beat it or you lose. You know, and that's what Kensington was. You know, I got a list this long of people that didn't make it out of there. Yeah. You know, from any number of things: overdoses, shootings, stabbings, beaten to death. Sepsis was a big one with the trank that was moving into the drug supply.
Is there a lot of sober people hanging out with you guys down in Kensington?
Oh, tons. Yeah, they come down just to, you know,
hang out, enjoy the
just
fresh
to take
air.
pictures of you.
Yeah, it's got to be tough though, because you're waking up basically in like in a war zone every single day.
Yeah, every
for
day.
your life, and from a couple different avenues. You know,
sure, yeah,
disease, humans, drugs. You know, just random violence that you can get pulled into.
Yeah, I
just
mean,
because you're in a close proximity.
we were a target a lot of the time for some of the younger kids. You know, go pick on the homeless. You know, so we would get robbed by them. I got robbed from my backpack with by 3 kids with a couple of box cutters. You know,
What were their intentions? Like, what was that, just to gain street cred, or was that trying to acquire something that you had?
they liked my backpack, so yeah, they said, "Oh, you got us a backpack." I'm like, "Nah, I didn't." They're like, "Yeah, you did," and they pulled out their cutters, and you know what I mean. I tried to hold on to it till one dude slashed at me. I was like, "You know what? Take it, man. It's not worth getting cut over." You know. Yeah, yeah. So a lot of different angles for, you know, danger and violence, and just generally, it's hard to live. You know, you're living on the street, on the sidewalk. You know, I was down there for 5.5 years. Probably close to 5 of that was directly on the streets and sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so living with the tent, starting fires in the winter. You know,
So tell me, man, what got you down there in the first place? Like what, like how did it start?
um, well, to rewind a little bit, so I was working at the jail. I relapsed, and
You were a guard, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, at Dallas State Prison. I relapsed while I was working there, and you know the progression of the disease of addiction caught up to me to the point where I was totally unmanageable in all avenues of my life, and I called off for an extended period under you know a medical leave, and that gave me even more freedom to progress further into addiction. And the drugs in this area were expensive, and in Philadelphia they're not. So Britt was familiar with the territory down there, so she said, you know, we might as well just go to Kenzo and get you there. It's stronger and cheaper. So we started going down, you know, once a week, then twice a week, then 4 times a week, and then we started staying down there a couple of days at a time, and then it's just progressing further and further until eventually.
Why leave? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So we ended up down there, but both our cars ended up getting destroyed. Hers broke, and we abandoned it, and mine was set on fire while we were in it.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I woke up.
Somebody did that?
Yeah.
Somebody set it on fire?
Yeah. Yeah. So my theory on it is that we were on the block too long because it was broken down, and we were living in the car, you know. And I think that the neighbors or either the dealers that were close by got tired of us being by. And yeah, I woke up and my headrest was fully on fire. So
So what like were your windows down or something?
yeah,
or?
we had the windows cracked, you know, you know, to sleep at night, so it didn't get you know, too whatever.
Too stuffy.
Yeah, stuffy. You know, I don't know if you ever clam baked in a car before, but you know, you
Right,
smoke
right.
so long the oxygen goes away, your lighter stops lighting. You know. Yeah.
Never get that far.
No.
Nah.
No.
You can't breathe. Like you're in a fucking spaceship.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as you crack the windows, your lighters work again.
So
Yeah.
going from Kensington, let's rewind here to like growing up, you know? Like what kind of like town did you grow up in? Like where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Town Hill.
Okay. Where's that at?
That's outside
PA?
of that's Pennsylvania. That's outside of Chick-Shinny, about 45 minutes from Wilkes-Barre.
The metropolis of Chick-Shinny.
Yeah, one stoplight, you know.
Nah, hey, on the way out there, I was like, look at all these great places to cook meth.
Chick-Shinny is a meth town. That's where I learned how to cook. It is.
I know all about it, man.
Yeah, that's where I learned.
So that had to be a drastic difference. So I would assume, you know, I grew up in a small coal town too. You know? So, you know, you have mostly blue collar workers. You have a couple of your business type, you know. What did you go to public school, Catholic school?
Yeah. I went to a public school in Northwest area, Huntington Mills Grade School, just a couple minutes from my house. And I had a normal life growing up. I mean, as far as what I would consider normal to be, you know, my parents were there for us. They weren't neglectful or abusive. We had presents at Christmas time and our birthdays. We celebrated the holidays as a family, you know, ate dinner together, and, you know, everything was normal. But like, I don't know, growing up I was bored, restless. I didn't have an outlet for, I guess, what always felt like just this need for something more. And I remember they brought in a DARE presentation to our school once, and, you know, they showed us all these drugs. And
Schooling, yeah.
That's for me.
Yep.
I
Thank
remember
you,
thinking
officer.
the same thing. Be like,
Yeah.
I never seen that shit before. Noted.
Yeah, it was this totally new thing that wasn't in our area, and they said it's gonna make you feel awesome, so don't ever do it. And for a kid like me, that was an open invitation to
Kind
learn
of a
more.
weird program, though. You know what I
I
mean?
thought it was odd. Yeah. I mean, I remember, like, no, I knew what a lot of this shit was, you know what I mean? Like, when I
Yeah.
seen it, I was like, and then, you know, never mind. It's
that a
saying
super
about me, but
that
Sure.
super
but it was
cool?
like,
Soda
you know, I'm
shit?
trying, I know not to mention it, but at the same time, I want to be like, hey, I know what that is. I'm like, well, how the fuck you know?
Right. Why do you know that?
why do you know that? I think that's
Yeah.
partly what they were doing.
It was like the same thing
They're
as
trying
the
to see-
parental advisories on the CD label. It was like,
Yeah.
that's the one you buy. You
Right,
just don't
right.
have
You're not
have
supposed to.
that.
You're in
Why
fifth
the
grade,
fuck
dude.
would I want that?
I was fifth fucking grade.
5th grade.
I was
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
like, well, 10, 11 years old. Like, what in the fuck?
Peak rebelliousness for a kid, you know.
And curiosity.
Yeah.
You know, that's when it starts.
Yep. So I found myself in the library researching drugs shortly after that. You know, any knowledge I could consume about substances, I was just eating it up. And then I made a decision that first chance I get, I'm gonna get high, and that's what I did. You know,
How old were you when that happened? When that
Um,
opportunity presented itself?
14.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
did you do? Smoke a little weed?
Smoke
drink
some
a little
weed.
beer?
Smoked some weed. I had experimented with alcohol a little bit before then, but it never did much for me, even to this day. You know, I don't know. Last shot I had was probably 6 months ago with my old man, and even then, it's like, it's cool. You know what I mean? It makes you feel good, but it never clicked for me like the way that opiates or stimulants did.
Never got you where you were trying to get to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got you.
yeah. So I experimented with some weed. You know, we all got together, pooled our money, bought a dime bag, and smoked, and it was the answer. You know, I finally felt free. I was comfortable in my own skin, and, you know, I felt like I was finally one of the boys, and, you know, we were all on the same level and we were equals, and I wanted to chase that feeling as often as I could. So that's what I did until I found opiates. Actually, the first time I tried opiates, I was 14 as well, but they scared the hell out of me because it felt too good.
Yeah, I had a
How'd you
similar
find
experience.
out? How'd you? Was that like a surgery or something? Wisdom teeth? Like, how'd that happen?
It was a friend of mine that stole some from his parents.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, really thinking about it now, I had actually forgotten. It was probably around then the first time I tried stimulants as well, which were a friend of mine's Adderall. But it was all part of the same experimentation phase, you know, what feels like what, and, you know, what works for me. And opiates worked really well, and it scared me. You know,
Opiates fucking work well, bud. They
Yeah.
don't, and they work every time.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
I took,
reliable source.
Oxycontin. The first time that I did that, I was like, I can't ever take that shit again.
Yeah.
And fortunately, like in my town, where like if you messed with opiates, you were a fucking scumbag. So
Sure.
none of us really did, and you know what I mean. So
You never
I
wanna be
kind of
that guy.
spared myself from that. I didn't really like downers, anyways, but I could definitely, you know, I remember throwing up, like, and I'm like, you know, I got to puke, and and then I puked, and I felt like fucking amazing. So I kind of lucked out there, but so for me, that kind of just said, don't do that. Smoke, you know, snort all the crank you want and all the coke you want, smoke all the crack you want, but don't fuck with that so that you're not a scumbag.
Sure.
So where was, you know what I mean? I'm sure you had similar thoughts. Where did you cross the line? Like what was it that
So, like I said, it scared me. So, I decided I'm not going to touch that anymore, you know, until I was probably about 16. And, you know, even smoking weed, you were looked at as you know, one of those guys, you know. scumbag, pothead, whatever in my area. So you tried to keep it on the down low, but eventually it just kind of became my persona, and I accepted, like, all right, well, this is me then.
Wait, that was like, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, you were cool. Smoked a lot of weed where I was from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where did you say you were at?
Shikshinny.
In Shikshinny?
Yeah. But
No, it's pretty similar where I'm from. It was like alcohol was widely accepted, not just by the kids, but by most of our parents as well.
yeah, you could drink
But
at the
you went
house if you
outside
didn't.
of alcohol.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were it was frowned upon.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from high end Plymouth, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
You
Yeah.
hit it, and there's a group of kids that eventually they said, yeah, we don't really care what you think, and it kind of made that switch over.
Yeah.
To now it's most of the kids don't drink at all.
Right. It's all weed, coming into.
there's
Well,
fentanyl
now,
in the
my
weed.
son's 15. None of them party. It's great. They're all good kids. They get together. I don't even worry about it. It's like,
Nice.
yeah, that
they're
is
all
awesome.
really good kids. Like,
Yeah.
they don't.
Well, it's a good thing too, because there's fentanyl in the weed now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just think too, as they're getting older, the kids are getting smarter, and they just realize that alcohol has no positive benefits.
No. I mean, it makes you feel good, sure, and it lowers your inhibitions, for a nervous teenager, dropping that little barrier that lets you talk to a girl is, like the golden ticket, essentially. But
Well, I think a lot of it had to do too is like we always had that face-to-face interactions with people. Now these kids, they don't have to be nervous face-to-face asking a girl out or they could just do. Hey,
Yeah.
you into me? Hey, you want? You know what I mean? It's a numbers game. They just
Right.
text and spin off, and that's it. They're good. I think that has a lot to do with it.
I can see that too. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a different way of growing up than I did, probably, you guys too. You had to talk to people then. I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Now 5-year-olds have them.
Yeah.
So, so you started experimenting. At what point did you face your first consequence as of your, choices to go down that direction?
At 16, my father was a corrections officer, and he searched my room, right? And he tore it apart, found everything. Found my bong, my pipes, found a key to his car that I had, hidden in between two boards that he never should have found, but did.
He's
Yeah.
corrections
Well,
officer.
it's his
Yeah.
job to kind of,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his daily job is to find what he shouldn't be finding.
Right, exactly. Yep. And he was good at it.
From
and
the biggest liars there are. you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. So I was threatened with no license until I can pass a drug test. So that was the first consequence. I overcame that by getting clean urine from a friend of mine who didn't smoke weed. And the day of the test came, I had just gotten some pee from my friend and passed the test. I was good to go. I'm back in the light in my father's eyes, and that gave me a whole new freedom to explore.
So just not doing it wasn't.
No, that wasn't an option. Yeah.
Doesn't even occur as a.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just so,
Figure out
so
how to get
at a
around it.
very young age, things that were going to get in the way of that. It wasn't even really a problem. It was just another obstacle. It
Exactly.
was just almost, and then after a while, you probably just got used to it. And
Right. And then you get good at the manipulation too. The more you do it, the better you get. So it became easier. And then at 16, my grandfather passed away in Georgia. So grandma came to live with us, and she had pain pills. So from there, I was hanging out with these older kids who smoked weed, but they took pills too. And they asked me one day if I can get any pills. I told them, yeah, I got, my grandma has pain pills. They're like, well, if you get us some, we'll give you a bunch of weed. So I got them, like, she had methadone for back surgery. She had gotten back surgery, and I took a couple of those, 3 of them, and I traded them to these dudes, and they gave me an eighth of like some decent pot. I'm like, wow, for these, like, you're gonna give me for as 16, in my area, I wasn't a big drug dealer or anything. So an eighth of weed was like plenty, and it's like awesome. So I did that with them a couple more times, but the fact that they wanted them so bad and that the second they got them from me, they ate them, I'm like, wow, they got to be pretty good, So I started to experiment with those. I would steal her pills and she would go out to play bingo and I would go in. But eventually my family caught up to me about that and, they started to take the pills with them. I denied ever taking them.
How old were you when that started?
16.
Okay.
16, so probably around 17 when they caught on, maybe a little before
right
then.
Mid-high school era.
Yeah. Yep.
Did you graduate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I graduated. I was gonna join the Air Force, but I mean that was the plan. But I think at some point I really decided before then that that's not really something I wanted to do because that was going to interfere with me smoking pot and taking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So I put up the image that that's what I wanted to do, so I could continue to chase what I wanted to. And
what exactly was that? The chase, like what were you chasing?
Whenever I took substances, it I just felt like I fit in. I didn't care what people thought was probably a better way to put it.
So you were just looking for like that, just being all right.
Yeah,
You were just chasing at all times just to be okay.
All the time. And then if I didn't have it, I wasn't okay. Even before like physical consequences of like, dope sickness or, psychological stuff from like stimulants, it was just in a normal state of mind, I wasn't okay with who I was.
You couldn't think about nothing if you had shit to do. You couldn't do it until you got that right.
It just felt like there was this pressure, coming from all sides. And when I took drugs, that pressure went away.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, all right. So I know that I remember when you, years ago, man, came into recovery. I think that's where we met, was in recovery, man. If I remember right, you had quite a few years continuous sobriety way back when.
Actually, you were one of the first people that I've ever met in sobriety. It was my first time in Wilkes-Barre General Detox, and you came in to speak there, and I was a patient there. It was you and Becky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys came in.
I remember, I remember that.
Yeah.
Man, that was like fucking 14 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, man.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Probably longer. You know what I mean? Maybe longer. Sometime it was right in the beginning. I think you were just getting sober, probably about that time.
Yeah.
So was Becky. And, you go and share your experience, strength, and hope with other people, and that's what you guys were doing, and I didn't believe a word you said. Yeah. I'm like, these guys are full of shit, man. There's no way they're happy without drugs. Like, because I couldn't even picture that for myself as any kind of reality. It was like, what do you mean? Like, you stop drugs forever? Like, you don't do it on week? Like, yeah. And, but no, like fast forwarding from there a little bit through, falling many times and many relapses, I eventually got the hang of, what the 12 steps were trying to teach me, which was really accountability to myself and other people for my actions, and a relationship with some kind of higher power as you understand them. That's really what I took out of the 12 steps, and that worked for me, owning my mistakes and admitting them, and being able to face them head on gave me almost the same sense of empowerment that using drugs did in the first place. Because I was accepted for that, like someone being, not necessarily brutally honest, but just honest with you about who they are, is an endearing quality of a person, and the 12 steps are full of those kind of people, once you get the hang of it. And the program and what it teaches, it really, I don't know, it opened up a lot of doors for me, and my life began to get better than I could have imagined, from what I had been into what I became. So yeah, I was sober for almost 5 years. I was a couple of days shy of 5 years. And
Oh, and then not to interrupt, but I just want to,
yeah.
remember Bashar?
Oh, yeah,
Remember you
yeah.
turned me on to Bashar? Bro,
Yeah,
that
dude.
guy's still my fucking guru, bro.
Yeah, dude. Bashar. Look, as far as like the channeling stuff goes,
That's a little weird. It's weird.
It's weird. It's weird,
but the shit he says,
you
man.
can't deny what he says
yeah.
as being, incredibly insightful, man. Even if he's just making it up, he's good at it. You know,
real good at it.
And it helps people.
Never seen him stutter, never seen him hesitate, never seen him fucking miss a beat, dude. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's good at it. So whether it's well rehearsed or he's actually getting a message from some
fucking alien,
some future alien. I think it's an alien from the future.
That's also him.
Yeah, right. And everyone else. Yeah. It's good stuff. And yeah, just exploring spiritual concepts and trying to build a relationship with God, whatever that is. Really put me into a good mindset until I got away from it.
And tell me about that, man. How does that, if it was good and this was, all magical and everything, what happened? How did you slide backwards?
I got too good for it. And,
what do you mean by that?
Things in my life, material things became more important than, the spiritual ideation that I had lived in the past that got me to where I was. So, I got a better job and I got a new car and started going to the gym, and girls were interested in me. And, I started to use women as a tool to make me feel better, more so than I use the steps. And, they call that complacency, which is, getting away from the program that got you there into a point. I reached a point of utter despair almost, I was in so much internal pain, just, I'm using girls to make myself feel better. So that's hurting them. It's hurting me because I have guilt and shame about that. And then, I'm buying things to uphold an image that I want people to see me as, even though that's not really the way that I feel, and just so on and so forth, to the point where I couldn't even really take it anymore. And I called a friend of mine and I said, I'm getting high. Can you get me stuff? And I went out for a weekend. We got a hotel, shot a bunch of speedballs. I took some stuff home with me, and I actually got some weed. And this is there's been a couple of spiritual experiences in my life, but this was probably the most profound. I smoked this weed in my room after this relapse, and I heard this voice a couple of minutes later, and it was separate from my own internal monologue, and it said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like looking around, like, what is this? I was alone in my room, but I heard a voice, and it said, "What are you doing?" What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm like talking in my head, and it said, "You don't do this anymore. You don't do heroin anymore. What are you doing?" And it was just like, I don't know, I still can't explain it. Ineffable, no words to describe the way that it made me feel. Just like I felt like I had let down my parents, I guess you could say, like as if I had like betrayed them. I felt like I betrayed someone close to me, was the feeling that I got from this, like,
it's getting that disconnect from your higher power too, man. That's the ultimate, kind of disappointing thing when you turn that, the right from wrong. You know what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Right.
For you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? When you steer away from that, it's a hard path to turn away from, because it's so easy to drive the right way.
Yeah.
Making that
off-road's difficult, right?
Yeah, the wheel always tries to pull you back to center.
Yeah.
But sometimes.
Yeah, and the drugs start looking real attractive.
So what I just found very interesting is that you went from not doing anything for close to 5 years to immediately heavy narcotic use.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no build up again. Like as when I was a kid. It was directly to what I knew was going to make me feel better in the moment instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did it do the trick?
Sure did. Sure did. I felt guilty about it at first on the way driving there to get it and everything, everything in me screaming at me to turn around, don't do this, make a call, whatever, but I didn't. Then I did the drugs, and I remembered, like I had the thought, this is why I did this every day. The second the drugs hit, I was like home again, you know. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, deep breath,
Just crumble up all that shame and just
Right. I can, put that in the corner and deal with it later, you know.
and then you sober up, it hits you again, and you gotta get high again.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I know for me, for years, man, I mean, it was booze mostly. You have a rough day at work, fighting with, someone you're dating, and you just sit down after a hard day's a hard labor, either at a bar stool, tailgate, crack a beer, 2-3 beers. It was a good day, got through it. Tomorrow's another day, actually looking forward to the next day,
Yeah.
Yep.
Try again the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that relapse and then that experience in my room, it continued after that, and it literally said to me in my head, it told me to call a close friend of mine, Jolene. I'm sure you guys probably know her. I don't know if you do or not, but it said to call her, and I ignored it, and then it was louder, and then I ignored it, and then the third time that it happened, it was I couldn't ignore it anymore. It was like this booming voice. It felt like it shook the room, and it was a direct command to go and stop whatever I'm doing and go call this person. And I called her and I said, I've been shooting dope all weekend. I don't know what to do, and I need your help. And she's like, all right, get rid of everything you have, and we'll go to a meeting tomorrow. And that's what I did. And I bounced back right into the program. I got high for a weekend and jumped back into the 12 steps and stayed sober for like another 2 years, and that had never happened for me before. It was always when I picked up, it was kind of like a snowball effect, and it just, you're right back out, and worse than before. But
Roadrunner.
yeah, it was so the ability to bounce back really, like, it kind of showed me, like, whatever's going on here, it works. Like, it wasn't a fluke the first time, that I happened to get sober in this. It was like, some part of this program is working for me. And I jumped in until I got complacent again a couple of years later, and the same old story,
Now, let me ask you this. So since you were able to bounce back, was there like this false thought in the back of your head, like, hey, if need be, I could always just step out for a weekend and come right back?
I want to say maybe not consciously, but probably on some level in there, it said, I mean, I even still fight with that today.
Mm-hmm.
It is like, I can go scratch the itch, and then, I'll be okay. That still exists in my mind to some degree. And I know it's a lie, like rationally I know it, but drugs and, alcohol and all that stuff, it bypasses the rational part of your brain.
Sure does, bud.
Yeah.
Sure does.
Yeah, when that sweet slut starts shaking her ass, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, go hot rails some ice and get busy, That's where that's where my head goes, man.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I remember when I first came up here, you had maybe like a year or two. There's a bunch of young kids running around recovery, having a good time. We all used to go to what was that, Barton Irby's Wednesday after the meeting.
Yeah.
We'd all be down there hanging out.
Yep.
We have a friend that was in bands. They'd be playing.
Yeah.
We'd be all out. People couldn't believe we weren't drinking.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we were probably the most rowdy.
Yeah,
we're the rowdiest dudes.
Right.
But none
having
of us
the
were
most
drunk,
fun. Yeah.
But it was kind of weird. You ever notice that too? Like, if you're sober and you're out and you're actually just having fun, you can be rowdy, but nobody's trying to like. There's no threat of violence. There's nobody trying
Just
to
fun, yeah.
fuck with you. You know what I mean? They just know you're having a good time. But the minute that you have alcohol introduced, it changes everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
it changes how that's going to end.
Yeah, it's just,
you know, and everybody knows it.
Yeah, because when I think too, if you're under the influence, your ego gets so huge, dude. Like God forbid somebody slights me in the little, you know what I mean?
Scuff your shoe and it's on.
And everybody shrinks too. They get smaller, you know.
Bare muscles.
Yeah.
I'll fucking smoke you, motherfucker.
I got dusted quite a bit.
Me too. Yeah. I love getting my ass kicked. When I'm all wobbly.
Yeah. You tell your friends you won, though. Yeah.
I would have had him if I wasn't so drunk.
Evidence that I did.
See the other guy.
Yeah.
If I wasn't so drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So I remember when you got that job at the state prison. That was like a big deal. You know, coming from the background that we come from to making that switch to law enforcement. That's
Yeah, it was. It was a big deal for me, and because my father and brother also did that. You know, there was the part of me that wanted to, live up to their standard.
There's some lineage to live up to.
Yeah. So I felt good going into the program, or not the program rather, but the job. You know what I mean? I felt good going into it. I made it. Is how I felt. But even then, the foundation was unstable when I went in because I was a couple years sober after my second relapse, so I was like a year and a half, I think. And going into it, I just kind of had this feeling because I knew the kind of people I was going to be dealing with, guys like me, really, manipulators, liars, violent thieves, and just.
Well, let's face it, you don't wind up in a state penitentiary because,
all the good deeds you did.
Yeah,
exactly.
Johnny Do-Gooder,
Yeah. And I don't think that I was prepared for it, honestly. With my background with substance abuse, I don't think I was ready for it. And I went in and, I did my job and I completed the training. It was a 5-week training and
which doesn't seem like it's nearly enough.
No, probably not. I mean, they have trainings after the fact, every couple of weeks. Really, like once a month you have a training, I think. I don't remember exactly.
Are they helpful?
But,
or is it just kind of like, hey, watch these videos?
Pretty much. You know what I mean? You could take a nap if you want to, As a trainee, though, there's a year and a half, training period after you go to the academy, and you're expected to pay attention and be present. But all the old heads are back there snoozing or eating their lunch and playing on their phone. Because you're supposed to. Really, the job you learn as you go. In that you have the 5-week academy, but then the real training begins once you actually enter the prison.
Well, sure, you got to learn how to navigate all these street savvy individuals.
Yeah.
Who's violent, who's not, who uses what technique.
Right. There's all that. And they warn against manipulation, and you constantly have the threat of that. There's mandatory overtimes, and there's constant stress. You know what I mean? You don't know if this dude that you pissed off last week is gonna try to drag you into a cell. And there's just the constant threat of violence for you and your colleagues. And even when that's not happening, you have subtle manipulations coming from you at every angle all the time, on top of doing your actual job, which is, a ton of paperwork. And you're a mandatory reporter, which means, you have to report an incident, or you're held accountable by law if you don't. So, you got to be on top of your game. And just, I think.
So pretty much if two inmates are making threats at one another, everything that they're saying, pretty much to the best of your recollection, has to be documented.
Yeah. If it escalates into into a situation like a fight or,
Or like if they're intently screaming at one another or something like that.
Yeah. You gotta write them up and then write what they said. Inmate number this by this name said this to him, and there's a lot to it, and it took up a lot of my time, even more so than before. So I had gotten even further removed from the 12 steps than I had in the past, and I was hanging out with this girl the one night. She was getting high because I could fix her, and I was hanging out with her, and she ended up dropping some dope at my house, and she didn't realize it. I grabbed the bag, sniffed it, and got high. And then shortly after that, my grandmother passed away. My grandmother was actively dying, during that period. So I was stressed from that as well. And I went to the house, and she had, the same old pain pills that were always there. And I grabbed a couple of them and took them, and it just spiraled out of control. So then I started going to work high, so I'm going to the jail high. Inmates started to catch on after a while.
Sure.
They try to get you.
It didn't take them long, but
No.
Did they try to get you to bring them some shit in or what?
Only once directly. A couple made comments, but the one guy, I was making rounds after lockup the one night for the end of the shift, and he called me over, and he said, I can get you shit for cheaper than he's like, I can help you out. I'm like, what are you talking about? I feigned ignorance, and he's like, what I'm talking about, you're getting high. And I told him, like, listen, bro, whatever you think is wrong, you need to mind your business and don't ever ask me something like that again. And he didn't, but that's when I knew, like, I was made, essentially, like
yeah, everybody talks. Though.
Yeah, they were on to me, and it was only a matter of time until it got out. And then I started hearing stuff from my coworkers, the side eye and stuff, and that became a just living that second life was an entirely other stressor,
Well, sure, because not only that, like you have all of that other stress, and now you're a liability for your coworkers because now they're put in a position because you might not be on top of your shit.
Exactly. And it was just dangerous all around. And I mean, even correction officer, the career has one of the highest rates for suicide, for alcoholism, for divorce, all of these different negative aspects of life. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Heart attack, and depression. That's got some of the highest rates of any career.
Yeah, I worked with a guy that was actually, he was at Draper. He worked at Draper, and he was there during a riot. He was actually held hostage for like a week or something like that. So they sliced his fucking stomach open. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a dangerous job.
Sure. I mean, it wasn't all terrible. A lot of the guys are ball busters, and you can laugh with them. That's all right. Just gotta be mindful that they're not trying to get one over on you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that probably 75 to 80% of them are probably just fucking idiots.
Yeah.
They're mostly drug addicts.
Yeah,
some of them probably 90, probably 95% of them are drug addicts.
15% of them that are just no good, man.
Yeah. You had your psychos. There was one dude there who, it's terrible. He cut the fetus out of his wife, killed his wife, cut the fetus out of it. Sexually assaulted the kid, and then played tic-tac-toe on his dead wife's stomach with his buddy. Like, just, imagine the worst thing that can be happening to an individual is happen. I mean, like, so you had those guys in there.
How do you think of that? I could think of that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty morbid. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little intense.
It's really, really intense,
Tic-tac-toe.
So, prison, of course, is necessary. It keeps some nightmares locked away, but for the most part, it's drunks, you know what I mean, and guys who committed crimes for drugs and alcohol. even if it's not directly, paraphernalia or possession or selling, you have violence from alcohol, DUIs, stealing and robbing to get money, to get substances. And, so your overwhelming majority is guys like me, that were in there. So I felt like a giant hypocrite, going to work every day, getting high and keeping these guys locked up who are just me,
Make you need to get high more.
Yeah, it was really like just, I don't know, it was really taking a toll on me mentally. So I essentially abandoned the whole thing. I went on FMLA, and um, I had been going back and forth to Kensington in between, that time while I was still using there. And then,
Oh, you were going when you were still working at the prison?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, and my life completely just blew up, and I ended up down there for good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here we are. We're in Kensington. And you were down there for what, 6 years? Is that right?
Yeah, about that.
About 6 years?
Yeah.
And, I mean, you just jumped right to, so you were saying your car got burned and all that stuff. Was it from that point where you were basically just living in the streets? Like just,
Yeah, after I lost my car, we were on the streets from there,
tell me about an average day and
Yeah, like
for
what
you.
was the number one focus? Was it, getting on sick, copping, food, water, shelter? Like,
Getting on
how does
sick.
that work?
Getting unsick is first priority. Often you have nothing left from the night before. So what you try to do is wake up early to get samples, because they give out free samples of drugs in Kensington. So, if blocks put out new product or whatever, they'll call a sample, and you'll hear about it through the grapevine, and everybody runs to the block. Sometimes there'd be guys lined up for a whole block waiting in line to get their free bag, and sometimes there were more than one. So you try to chase those, if you didn't have money, so you'd get up early and chase that. And then, the next step was maintain the ability for the next one. And then
That's amazing to me that they were that. I don't know if you want to call it streetwise or whatever, just to keep you guys enslaved. They just offer that free stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's just
almost every day. Yeah.
What, just to get you started every day, or
Yeah.
is that the idea?
Yeah.
because that would give you that courage too to go out, hustle, make more money.
Exactly. A lot of the guys down there boosted, so they would shoplift to get their products that they're going to sell to get money to get high. So
How did you do it? What did you do?
So I started out boosting until I almost got caught a couple of times. And I realized that would be catastrophe both for myself and for Britt. So I learned how to inject people that couldn't do it themselves. Either their veins were too far gone, or they just didn't know how, or they wanted to get hit in the neck where the rush is faster. So I learned how to do that by practicing. I was already kind of good at it just from being an IV drug user. You learn how to do it, but I made that my hustle, full-time hustle.
Dr. Budd.
Really, yeah. Some people called me the doctor. Yeah, that's what I did, and I was a fixture on the block. Rain, sleet, snow, or heat, I was there. If you needed to get hit, you could come find me. And
What do you do? Like, what's the hustle? Like, what do you charge them for something like that?
$3 to $5 per hit, and
There'd be a line or what? Sometimes
a line, yeah, because I was good at it, and I was trustworthy. I was good at it, and people didn't get robbed around me because I didn't allow that. So they knew that if they get high there, they're gonna be safe until they wake up and go do their thing. So I got a good reputation. Clout, maybe, like I was respected by the addicts, I was respected by the dealers, and that was good because it kept me safe. Even if I had a slow day, I could go to one of the dudes and be like, hey, I need something, and I'd be provided for. Even so far as like protecting territory, we had our own, it was me and a couple other guys that did it, and we had our own spot cut out on the block, and they would go buy the drugs from the block, and then they would come to us to get hit, and it was this symbiotic relationship between us and the dealers. And it worked for a while, it worked. And yes, I mean, the most I ever made in one day was right around $700.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people, bro.
yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, most people would come to me, 3, 4, 5 times a day. And if they're all paying me $5, and sometimes if people had a good day, I'd get tipped, so between drugs and cash, was like a total of about 700, but an average day was 300 or 400, you know? Yeah, it was just an especially good day.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was there for years. I mean, even still, from what I hear, people talk about me down there. Like, I was good at it. Um,
So with that money, would you ever at times just be like, hey, I had enough of this for a couple days, go get a hotel room, clean up, get a meal, live the high life, so to speak?
yes and no. There were some situations, but more so what happened is the more money I got, the more drugs I did. So I just lived to my means. So I never really had extra. If I made more money that day, that was just more crack to smoke, you know. Um, the recreational aspects of hardcore drug using, crack is probably the go-to, because you can do as much of it as you want, and it's always available there. So yeah, I lived to the means, and I was also supporting Brit's habit as well. So, 2 habits of, speedballs every shot along with extras, and, we would eat when we had money that was like that. So, we would get some decent food or whatever. And occasionally though, like, we would stay in bandos that people had or apartments. And a lot of the time, the way that worked out was they needed to be hit. So I would hit them as rent to stay in the house. So that's what we did. And I would stay there during the night, wake up early, and go out to the block. And if they absolutely had to get hit, they could come to the house and pay a house fee to get hit inside. Or if they didn't have the money, I would go outside and take care of it for them.
That's crazy. So what was police presence like during those, like, early morning? There's, whatever, some guy, we'll call him Joe, is yelling for samples. He's giving out free samples. How does law enforcement deal with something like that? Are they just there to make sure nobody's getting killed? Do they just are not even around? Like, what does that look like?
So police presence is mainly there to stop violence. They do patrols and stuff, and when you're running a sample or something like that, they'll often hire lookouts. So they'll grab a couple of addicts from the street and say, "Hey, we'll give you 3 bags. Go up the block, and watch for the cops. If they start coming, yell. Then everybody will disperse and act like they're knotted out, or you know what I mean. Sit down, so you're not standing in a line waiting to get this bag of dope." But I mean, there's also corruption in the police. I've seen cops ride up to somebody and take their drugs and say, "Do you want to go to jail?" "No, you don't." "All right, then, shut the fuck up." And they go on their way, and so does the dealer. And that's that. They take their drugs or their money. And yeah,
I mean,
that happens. I mean, it's not a huge
what I would think
problem,
is then
but
what they do is they probably call their boss, sell them their shit back.
something like that.
You know what I mean? And that kid has to get a little bit smarter. And there's probably consequences he has to pay for
Yeah.
having the cops take their shit.
Yeah, it goes like that. It's all a business, really. It's really, the whole thing is just this business.
Well, the feds just did a pretty...
Yeah, that was Weymouth Street. I stayed on Weymouth for a while, a couple of months from like the end of a fall until like the beginning of a spring. I stayed in a trap house, which is a drug house, and I stayed there, and I dealt with those guys from Weymouth Street, and they're, anything you read about them is probably true.
Yeah, they're serious group of guys. Yeah, they ran it like a corporation. If you looked at it in the sheets, they had like a schedule. Like,
Yeah.
this crew gets this section of the block from 8 to 10 o'clock in the morning, and then it's the next crew. They get it from this time to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And they ran a numbers game, dude. And if you didn't put up numbers, you got bumped off the schedule.
Exactly how it works.
You know,
That's very collaborative.
Oh yeah, they ran it like a straight business. It was like a high-end retail corporation, but they're just selling.
There's no receipts.
Yeah.
No receipts. That's it. It's straight up a business.
Yeah, and I just remember from watching the show The Wire too. They were like, you know, if the kids don't act, if they're not hitting numbers, you stop paying them. What are they gonna do? Go get a fucking job?
Right. So
they ain't leaving the block.
They hustle better.
That's it.
You know,
they learn.
Yeah. So I stayed on that street as a hitter for the woman who owned the trap house there. So I would inject her when she needed it, and that gave Britt and I shelter. And I dealt with all those dudes. They never did me any wrong, but I also knew the kind of people I was dealing with and made it a point not to get involved.
That up.
Right. You know, you could disappear really fast in Kensington and nobody's even gonna bat an eye. You know, not on that block specifically, but another block. I know a dude who was killed for $10. He was $10 short on his ticket turning in at the end of the night for, you know, his shift. And that was like his third time. He was a couple dollars short. They took him in the lot, put 2 bullets in his head, and
that was it.
Called the guy to clean up, and that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you said you were pretty safe given your position down there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it seems like it was a pretty dangerous place regardless, man. So,
some
of the, like, I mean, was it common to feel unsafe while you were down there doing your thing as far as you know, dealing with the denizens was concerned and what have you?
Yes. There was a lot of random violence. So shots would ring out randomly. You know, you don't know if they're shooting at you. I mean, we've been shot at just because we're there. You know, we've been threatened. They'd shoot us with paintballs, fireworks, you know, actual guns. You know, I know a couple people who were shot down there. The only reason I didn't is probably just because I was lucky. You know, it could have happened to me just as quick. You know, even the people that are down there who are, you know, legends or, you know, have all the clout in the world, like they still get killed. You know, there's not much discretion for a bullet. So yeah, if it's coming your way, you're hit, and it happened a lot. So yeah, I was lucky in that sense. But there's always that looming sense that anything could go wrong at any time. You know, and even
how about stick up boys? Is there a lot of kids down there trying to like stick up the dealers and rob the money holders?
No, there's too much power down there. If they find out who you are, you're dead. So there's a lot of risk. Occasionally, some out-of-towners would try something stupid. That happened when I was working as a lookout on a block once. They asked a dude to, you know, buy whatever amount of product, and they held a gun up to him in between 2 cars. They told him to shut up, give him all the shit, and then they walked away. And then, you know, the other people that were working on the block were kind of scattered. So he ran over and told them, and they went and tried to chase him down, but the dudes took off in a car and got away. So they were most likely out-of-towners. I say that because, you know, it's almost like high school. You know, you get to learn who everybody is, and it's a small world. So your presence gets known.
Or else if you meet somebody, you could just be like, "Hey, I know so and so," or "Oh yes, yeah, you're cool. Come on over."
Yeah. It worked on reputation a lot of the time. You know, so even if you had a bad reputation, that worked against you. Like thieves weren't allowed on the block. Not really.
By a thief? What do you mean by a thief? Because you just said these were all boosted and stuff, but that doesn't count, I'm sure, because you're not stealing from...
You're stealing from a corporation, not your fellow man.
Right.
Yeah, so if you had a reputation as a thief, someone who robbed people, you were watched very closely if you were even allowed to be around at all. And there were a couple of guys who had that reputation.
What if they weren't allowed to be around? How was that handled?
Violence. They were asked to leave, and if they didn't, they were persuaded violently to leave. Yeah.
What's the, I mean, I'm sure there's probably a long list of shit, but what would you say, what was the, I guess, scariest or craziest experience you had while you were there, man?
I got locked in a trap house, beaten bloody, and they were gonna kill me and Britt. And that happened. So this new girl started coming to me to get hit. She paid well, and she became kind of a regular customer over the next couple of weeks since she started showing up. And one day she came to the block to get hit, and I looked down in her purse and she had guns. So I'm like, you got to get that out of here. Like, if something happens like that, you can't have that, like do what you do, but just please don't do it here. And she got hit, went around the corner, passed out, and she got robbed for 2 guns, bottle of green Xanax bars, like $200 and 2 bundles. So it was like, I don't know, probably 2,500 in shit that got stolen from her, if not more. Um, Her boyfriend came to me later in the day and was like, hey, she needs to get hit again. Can you come down to the house? We'll look out. So I'm like, all right. So I finish up hitting the people that I was taking care of on the block. I go down to the house. I sit in there. He sets up the phone on the step, and I thought that was weird. And he called her, and he's like, hey, can you see? She says, yeah. And as soon as she said, yeah, 3 people just started beating the hell out of me in this house. They broke a board over my head. I got a scar right here. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, yeah, they broke a piece of wood over my head. It was like I don't know, like a table, like a chair leg kind of thing. Yeah, they broke that. They were hitting me in my legs and my body with a 2x4 that had a nail in it. I mean, I was beat bloody. My face was
Is that
swollen.
because they thought you had something to do with her losing her shit?
Yeah, so I started freaking out. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And he said, you think you're gonna rob me and get away with it? You think I'm stupid? Going off. And this dude is in an absolute rage, so he's not trying to hear anything that I have to say. And that went on for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, and he's questioning me. And then I remembered that a guy paid me with, so I had a green Xanax bar in my sock that a guy paid me with, and they searched me and found that bar, and they were like, aha, like, we knew you took, see, you got this. And I'm like, somebody paid me with that, and he had a bottle. I'm like, that's almost definitely the dude who took it. They're like, who is he? So I told him, because they're threatening my life.
Sure.
They had already sent Britt. They had already sent a guy out to get Britt. He's like, oh, you don't have it on you. You're not going to talk. Maybe your girlfriend will. So they told her that there was a sample at the house, and a guy was going to get her and bring her back. So during that is when they found the bar, and I'm like, I'll tell you who took it. Like, I don't care. Like, it's not like I had anything to even do with it. I didn't make any money off the come up, like, I'm not going to die for somebody else. So they're like, start talking. So I told them who it was, and Britt came in. They started hitting her, knocked her to the ground. They're choking her. She's like, what the hell's going on? I was on the ground with someone sitting on top of me because I had tried to run. And I got into like a tussle with the dude, but it was like 2-on-1. It was this like bigger black woman. She was like heavy, so
Fat bitch.
pretty much, yeah. And she grabbed me and pulled me back and sat on me, and it was like kind of like a built kind of Spanish dude. So they're screaming at me, and when Britt walks in, I'm on the ground. The dude had stripped down to his underwear because I was pretty sure he was gonna kill me, so he didn't want blood on his clothes. He took his clothes off. And they started asking Britt what's going on, and she said the same thing I did, that, like, you really think that we still would have been on the block if we just stole all that stuff from you guys? Like, why would we do that? You saw me working there when you showed up. So and I guess she got through to them because they let us go. they sent her out first. He made me come over to the sink and wash the blood off my face and my body, so I wasn't walking out of the trap house bloody. And they said, you know, we're gonna watch us, and if we do anything shady, he's like, I'm gonna take you both. He's like, I'm gonna kill your girl in front of you, and then I'm gonna kill you. So I'm like, all right, man. Well, I'm telling you, we didn't have anything to do with it. So, you know, and then I guess eventually the word on the street was 2 Spanish guys were trying to sell guns in Xanax bars a couple of blocks up. And whether they ever found them, I don't know. But they didn't really come around our block anymore after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only assume it was handled, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, that was really scary. That was probably the only time I thought that I was definitely going to die. You know, I've been in other situations where I've been shot at or jumped or you know, beaten in different ways or threatened. But as far as direct physical violence with threat of death was the scariest time.
Yeah, that sounds fucking wild, bro.
Yeah, it was.
Never been through nothing like that myself, you know?
Yeah. The worst part about it was like the powerlessness, you know, of it, because there was nothing I could do. I was locked in a house, surrounded by people who had intent to harm me and my girlfriend, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. You know, the overwhelming feeling of not being able to do anything about it was probably the worst. Like, I've been beaten up before and threatened, like, you know, I could take that all day until it kills me, but like just being unable to do anything to protect the people that I care about was like really just mentally it took its toll
Yeah, I
with that.
imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, psychological, that was like, I guess, traumatic, you know. It's probably the most traumatic thing psychologically that I've dealt with down there.
It almost sounds like, so, you know, you're not even sure how necessarily how you even got out of it. Like Britt really came through there,
She
huh?
really did.
Yeah.
She really did. He called her into the room and questioned her separately, so we couldn't like talk. And I guess she said the same thing to him that I said without us being able to communicate. So he figured that we're not lying. Kind of good cop, bad cop. You know,
Yeah.
if you tell the same story, then it's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a goddamn miracle there, man. He
Pretty
made
much.
it out alive, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And
pretty wild.
the crazy thing about that story is the resolution of it is, so we were kind of talking about, like, I don't know, some supernatural stuff earlier, Bashar and all that, right? So I knew a girl down there who was a gypsy, and she found out what happened, and she talked to us about it. She said, screw that, you guys are my friends, you didn't do nothing to them, I'm gonna curse them, she goes. So within 3 months, the girl who had gotten robbed in the first place that approved our beating had gone to rehab, had a heart attack in rehab, went down and suffered severe brain damage. From what I understood, she was on life support up until I eventually got out of Kensington. I don't know if she made it. Her boyfriend, the Spanish guy, got booked on a bunch of charges for something totally unrelated and was doing like 10 to 15. The other guy who was there, black guy was there, was beaten bloody and put into the hospital on life support ICU for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I guess. And he had really the least to do with it. Like, he apologized to Britt and everything about this. You know, he gave her like a free sample of drugs anyway on top. She even still got the sample after. Like, bullshit, you know. But he ended up getting beat up really bad. And you know, the heavier set woman, she died in that same house from an overdose because she only smoked crack, but she smoked off somebody's pipe that had been smoking dope, and she had no tolerance to it. She overdosed. They thought she fell asleep on the couch, and she was actually dead. So she died in the same house. So, you know,
Can you You got this gypsy's phone number, bro?
I could probably find her. Yeah.
Yeah, I got used for her.
Yeah. It was crazy, dude.
I got a few customers that didn't pay me some money.
Dude, I remember you telling me stories like that, man.
Yeah.
From back in your day. You got your little black bag or whatever. You throw people's belongings in and shit.
Wild shit.
Yeah,
My
crazy
kid might
stuff.
watch this, so. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I still really can't, but yeah, it happened. It happened, severe consequences to all those guys.
And here you are.
Yeah.
You fucking made it through that shit, dude. The fucking war zone, bro. So let me ask you though, because I know it's common for people in recovery. They got to hit some kind of bottom before they're fucking ready to start turning that shit around. What would you say? Because I mean, how long you were still ripping and running after that for a while, right?
Yeah.
So even that wasn't like a bottom, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I was still out there for probably another 6 months. So I mean, the bottom that eventually I had to reach in order to stop was my health started to fail me drastically. So tranq is really hard on your body, your vascular system, your organs, all that. So it messes up your blood flow. You get wounds that don't heal. It's extremely caustic, so that even causes further wounds that don't heal. So there were people who had, I had wounds on my legs like this big around on my calves that just were there for well over a year, really closer probably to 2.5 or 3 years. Those were there, just open wounds.
Wow. Wait. Open, not healing, stayed unhealed.
Stayed unhealed, open wounds.
Like that crocodile shit or something.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
I've seen people expose bones. I've seen them shoot into veins that were like exposed.
You can see the vein.
You can see the vein.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah. I've seen it like almost
It's like
on a
stuff
daily.
out of a horror film.
Yeah, dude.
Really. Maggots. People with maggots.
That keeps it clean.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Actually, I've had maggots. I got them 4 times that I can count. The first time was the worst, and then I recognized what it's like when you start to get them, like how it feels and stuff. So I handled it from there. But the first time I got them, they were like halfway full grown, a whole bunch of them in my leg, eating rotten flesh on my body. And what was actually strange about that was, when I did clean them off, as soon as I realized they were there and like accepted it internally, because there's like a period of time where you're like, that's not what's happening. It's not, it can't happen to me, but it did. And when I cleaned them out, the area that they were at on the wound was actually clean, new pink flesh underneath where they were eating. And then the wound that they hadn't gotten to was like still infected and gross. So, I mean, they do their job in nature. They do what they're supposed to do. And they actually produce like an antibiotic, like secretion off their bodies as they eat. So it stops new bacteria from forming as they move off of that wound. So
Was it painful for them being on there? Did it hurt? Did you feel them there?
Once they start getting to the new flesh, they go down to healthy flesh and then they move forward. So once they get to where that new flesh is, it kind of pinches and is uncomfortable in that way because they're like biting, but they don't eat healthy flesh. So they get down to it and then move.
Okay.
Kind of like a lawnmower, know. Yeah. And
that's a good analogy. A lawnmower.
Yeah, so you could feel it when it.
I'd fucking love you, bud.
Yeah. That was also psychologically like very traumatic, having maggots and like realizing it, and then not really being able to do anything about it either, because you could clean them out, but you still have these wounds, and you're outside 24/7 in the summertime in the heat, so they just.
So with this open drug market though, so like the city doesn't have people going down there making sure that you guys are okay, healthy, or is it just straight do whatever you want?
They have outreach down there, so volunteers that come out and do it themselves. I'm not sure if the city itself directly has a hand in programs like that. Mm-hmm. No, you know what? They do. They have a rehab program. I forget what it's called, but it was over on Allegheny. And the way that you usually got into that is, say you get caught by the cops. Strike Force, usually. Strike Force is a specialized team that targets drug buys and drug dealers. So if you go make a buy and they witness it, they'll scoop you up. And then they'll give you an option. You can sign up for this program and go to it, or you can go to jail. It's your call. So you go and
Yeah, you want to go home or you want to go to jail?
right.
Yeah.
So you sign up. So they do have that, but I'm not sure how in depth they go after that.
So like
you know.
medical though, there's like no EMTs coming down, making sure you guys have antibiotics or anything like that. Nothing.
That's all handled by volunteer work. From what I understand is,
You never encountered them though?
Sure, yeah. They would come down there a couple of times a week. In fact, they would have a place on Ruth and Clearfield, right off the Ave, every Saturday called the Kensington Project, or the Everywhere Project, I believe it's called, the Everywhere Project. And they go down every Saturday and they set up in this lot and they give out clothes and food and supplies, medical supplies, and they have volunteer EMTs and stuff on hand that come and will.
Some good people.
Yeah, really good people. Really, most of them are sober.
Yeah, or had family members that are probably.
Yeah. Most of them were
probably in recovery. Yeah.
affected, by addiction directly, so they want to give back, so they'll go down and do that. Yeah. We're gonna go down, actually, me and my family, next weekend to try to just give out some supplies, and try to get some people into rehab if they want to go. Yeah. Winter's coming, and that was always when I started thinking a little bit more clearly about a recovery path.
Sure, it
sucks bad. Winter time's rough.
Winter is coming.
I just remember running recovery houses for a couple of years.
The long night approaches.
Once it started getting nice out, the guys would get pretty. Yeah, fuck you. They didn't care what I had to say. They didn't care about rules. But right around this time of the year, everybody was on their best behavior, dude. I chalked it up to cold and holidays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like,
you want to be around.
What was that like for you being down there, just knowing it's Christmas time and your family's worried about you?
So, a couple of times my mother actually came down and got us off the streets for a weekend. She came down 3 or 4 times, but the first time was for Christmas. She came down, picked us up, and it was like a kind of a surreal Christmas because she bought us like street supplies to live on the street, instead of video games and shit like that. It was a tent and boots and a nice winter coat and fire supplies and stuff. So, but the winters that she wasn't there, the holidays that she wasn't there were hard, because I know that she's missing me, and I know that she thinks I'm going to die at any day, at any time, and she's just waiting for this phone call. So that gets compounded with the holidays because it's the time for family and stuff. So, her she's already thinking about it every day, but she's thinking about it more often with family coming around.
Well, I remember in that newscast and you said, "Hi, Mom, I'm okay." And, bro, you were not fucking okay.
Yeah.
Well, I remember too. There was a gentleman that he would go down in that neighborhood and he would do films. He would just drive by with a camera in his car, and then it would be like a slow-mo take of it.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you and Britt on that tape. I'd go on and check that channel every now and again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he would drive through every day. There's a couple people that do that, and I guess my opinion on them is different than maybe family members. I think that it's exploitative because they do it for views, and some of them have GoFundMes and stuff. And
they masquerade as trying to raise awareness and be helpful when really they're just trying to.
They got a hidden camera in their pocket. Yeah. So whatever.
That has to be kind of dangerous for them too at some point, because you get some little hopper on a block that's trying to make a name for himself, and they find out who that person is.
And they know he's got a camera.
Fucking air you out.
Yeah. How would they? How did they fit in with the culture down there? I mean,
they weren't allowed.
They weren't allowed.
Not at all. There were a couple guys down there who got robbed, beat up, and they got their stuff taken from them. Their phone, whatever.
Take their cameras and shit.
Yeah.
but some of them make it out, without. How do they slip through? They just get lucky, or
So they'll hide their phone in their pocket, or there's some people down there with meta glasses now that they record as you're just wearing them, so you can't tell that they're actually recording you.
Well, how about when you were on that news report? Did that guy have like?
So he asked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he came up and said, "Hey, we're doing this thing. Do you mind talking about what's going on with you?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking." Versus just doing it because you
do
want
they
to.
have to go to the dealers in the block and ask them permission to be there as well?
In some
Probably?
cases, yeah. In some cases, yeah. Yeah, it depends on who's working the block. If it's a bunch of addicts, they don't really have a say other than selling drugs. But if they're called caseworkers, and they're the guys who manage the street level workers,
Mm-hmm.
and they would come out sometimes and kick people out, say you can't be here, you got to go, whatever.
Yeah, I got a question about this collaborative effort that we were talking about earlier. Was there ever conflict between like different crews and shit like that, or different groups? Was there like ever battles fought that you know of, or
Not openly, like even as far as like gang stuff and territory. It seems like there's honestly enough to go around. And the addicts live right on the block and they make money all day. So the only competition really comes from the block trying to have the best product to draw the most number of people to come buy your stuff. So it was more of a potency competition than actual like violence or taking out the other guy directly.
Demand's there. It's all about who has the best supply.
Yeah,
and that's very capitalist.
it really is. It really is.
Yeah.
There's some places where you got the wrong color on and you're done. So it's not like that so much in Kensington as far as direct gang violence.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I'd like to go back to when we were talking about. I was curious about those wounds that you had. When you called them wounds, were they actually like, were you wounded and then they just stayed?
So
or did they, or was that from?
What happens is, say you miss a shot. Trank is very caustic, so it destroys your flesh, and then because it also is a vasodilator, or a vasoconstrictor rather, it stops blood flow from getting to those wounds that are there because of the trank. So it compounds, so it can't heal and it gets worse and it infects and it gets worse. So that in conjunction with like kidney failure, I was starting to get kidney failure. So my face was swollen up beyond belief. It was like a balloon. My eyes were swollen shut. I couldn't even see a lot of the time.
I think I seen photos of you like that. I thought that was from that beating.
No, that's called nephrotic syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kidney disease directly caused by the trank. It's poisoning your body, and then like all of the stuff compounds on each other. So it causes damage to your body, which causes your body to be less efficient, which causes more damage.
And your liver's working overtime.
Yeah. I had Hep C. When I got home, I took the medication to cure it. So I got that taken care of, which is great. I'm not sure if I feel better. It's hard to really say. Like, I never really had any symptoms from it as far as I was aware. If anything, I might feel like I have more energy, or I'm like, just not as lethargic. But yeah, no, the wounds just get really, really terrible, and then they attract, scavengers, maggots, flies, just all kinds of stuff. And there's lice and stuff that you get down there. Body lice and head lice were rampant at certain seasons. And all of this stuff eventually led to my throat starting to swell shut. My body was just kind of giving up, and my throat started to swell shut. So I had a tracheostomy put in, an emergency trach. So that's what this scar is here. Is from them putting a tube into my throat so I could breathe.
Wow.
Yeah. into a medical coma for 4 days. I woke up. I couldn't talk. I wasn't allowed to drink water. You can choke. You can't eat food. I had a feeding tube in until I could learn how to swallow again, and they have to teach you that over a week or two. Then I left the hospital AMA with that trach in. I just didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to get high, is what it was. I wanted to get high. I didn't want to get clean. They wanted to take me off the meds they were giving me and put me onto Suboxone, and I didn't want anything to do with it, so I left. And I was shooting into my neck, and because I couldn't puff up my neck and hold my breath because of a tube in my throat, I couldn't hold my breath, and I couldn't pop the veins out. So I was kind of just running shots if I thought I was in. And then my neck started to get infected really badly from abscesses and
So there was no
sores.
substitute doctor. There was nobody that would do what you would do. Nobody to hit you.
Nobody that I trusted.
Wow.
Yeah, no one that I trusted. A couple of times I let some of the best down there do it. But the one guy, he died. And the other one was hit or miss. So I would just take the risk myself versus let somebody, because there's risk to it beyond just missing a shot. There's something we call hot veins, which is an arterial injection. So if that happens, it essentially shotguns your brain with high potency drugs. It doesn't have time to dilute in your system, so it's almost an immediate overdose in your system. On top of actual particulate matter going through the blood-brain barrier, because you're bypassing that completely. It's directly into your arteries. All that stuff is supposed to get filtered out by your lungs, and I'm not sure what is it, your gallbladder that also helps filter your blood, I think. Spleen, I think your spleen. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
It goes directly to your brain, and you have severe seizures. I've seen people have a stroke because of it. So I wasn't gonna risk that if I thought I could do it myself if somebody does it wrong. So I was getting really bad abscesses in my neck, and my trach was getting badly infected. And it was about at that time that I also suffered frostbite on my feet. So I got severe frostbite, and I went to the hospital, and they told me I'm probably gonna lose my feet, and I did. Yeah, I'm a double amputee below the knee now. I don't know if it was just the combination of the drugs in my body for so long that I'd weakened my system to the point where I couldn't heal well, even with antibiotics in my system. The um, the the wounds on my feet from the frostbite weren't healing, and they were starting to get infected even in the hospital. And they were like, we can't let this go on, or you're going to get sepsis. And if you get sepsis and we can't control it, then you're going to die. So like you have to make a decision. Like we're either going to have to go in and do major surgery and remove necrotic tissue as it forms, or we're going to have to go with an amputation and get you moving towards prosthetics. So I thought about it for a couple of days, and I didn't want to have severe nerve damage. I didn't want to go through 6 or 7 months of surgery in order to just lose my feet anyway. So I said, let's just do it. And I got the surgery done, got them removed, and that gave me, like, I don't know, perspective, I guess. I mean, that's my ultimate bottom right there is living on the street until I literally couldn't anymore. We call it using drugs running. I'm going on a run. I've been running for however long, and I literally couldn't run anymore. My feet were taken out from under me, and it saved my life. Honestly, it did. It saved my life. I think I surely would be dead right now if I didn't get that medical emergency, the frostbite and the surgery. Really do. Uh, my body was shutting down. I didn't die of an overdose, none of that. It was just I had used poison for so long that it just couldn't keep up anymore. My mind was still there. But even with that, towards the end, Britt told me that I was almost starting to regress, like mentally, almost like childlike. And I didn't even realize this at the time. I still felt normal, but she said it was almost getting like simple, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you mean exactly?
like just not articulate, unable to express myself and like speak my thoughts coherently, just like quick to like get emotional or like angry, like just
It's like a
um
wet brain type thing or
yeah,
something.
yeah, I guess it would be like wet brain from alcoholism, just like a total regression of personality and emotional um intelligence.
Wow.
Yeah.
And okay, so there you are, um, ready to fucking put the nail in this. And then what did you do from there?
um
How'd you get back here?
so I got the surgery. A couple of weeks went by. My mother came to visit me in the hospital. She took time off work, so she was down there. She got a hotel room. She was down there for a couple
This is all in
weeks.
Philadelphia.
This was in Philadelphia at
In Penn.
Jefferson Frankfurt.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's where I initially went, and then they took me to Jefferson Torresdale, just another branch of their hospital, and that's where I had the surgery and began my recovery there. They had me on IV Dilaudid, 2 oxy 80s a day, uh, 2 oxy 80s every 8 hours, actually. 3 oxy 20s, instant release every 6 hours on top of Dilaudid every 5 minutes. Like I was on a very high dose of opiates because my tolerance was so bad. It was so high from doing the fentanyl in conjunction with um, what's it called? The xylazine trank causes very severe detox symptoms, extremely high blood pressure. Any tranquilizers do because they lower your blood pressure. So the detox is kind of opposite, which is high blood pressure and to the point where you can have a heart attack. It can kill you. You can have a stroke. Uh, that happened to a friend of ours down there while he was in the hospital. Um, yeah. So um, where was I going with that?
Uh, you,
Oh, I was coming home.
yeah, how you got back
Yeah.
here? Yeah, like what
Yeah.
led you to
I
back
was
here?
I was coming home. So my mother was down there during this whole detox process, and they eventually switched me over to Suboxone, and they started me on short doses, very small doses, and I transferred over to it until I was on like a 3 8 milligrams a day, and once I became strong enough physically to be able to transfer myself to a wheelchair and back to a bed and onto different surfaces, they deemed that I was healthy enough to be able to go home, that I wouldn't need to go to physical therapy right away. And they they talked to my mother. They asked her if she would take me. I asked her. She called my father. My father said that he's okay if I come home under a zero tolerance policy, because I destroyed our relationship over the years. Um, so he was very hesitant at first, but he said, if you screw up at all, you're out. He's like, I don't care if you have feet or not, zero tolerance. So I went home, and when I got home, I didn't want to be clean. I went back out to Kensington one last time before I came home, just to get like the last one in and try and get some kind of closure on the whole thing, because I wasn't ready to stop, but I was forced to, and I felt like that reservation to use drugs would come back and bite me in the end. Maybe now, maybe before, maybe a month from now. Just sometime in my future.
So even losing your legs still wasn't really at
Still
bottom.
wasn't. No, it still wasn't enough.
It's fucking crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It is. That's how powerful this shit is.
Yeah,
man.
it's so incredibly powerful. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. Just that pull to use is totally insane. So I got home, and I still wanted to use, but at the same time I didn't. The rational part of my mind
Right.
was starting to come back as I had gotten separated from using drugs every day. And the idea of sobriety slowly started to sound better than the idea of using. But even still, when I started to go to counseling, so I started to go to a Suboxone clinic at home, and they suggested I go to drug and alcohol counseling. So I said, it can't hurt. If anything, it'll look good when I eventually go to court to deal with the court stuff that I have to do from, committing crimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
that's usually the perk in our mindset in the beginning. Yeah.
yeah. And it was. I'm like, at the very least, it'll look good for court. But I told my counselor the day I walked in, I said, if you put drugs in front of me right now, I would do them in front of you. I don't care. I want to get high. I'm here to make this look good. And that went on for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a month. And slowly over time, as I got further and further away from daily use and got into working on myself, with a counselor. And then, she suggested that maybe I should try mental health therapy, which was something that I had never done before. I always felt like I was fairly mentally sound and emotionally stable and stuff. So I never thought that I needed mental health therapy, but it was something that I never did. And I thought it can't hurt. If I'm starting to actually kind of enjoy this counseling, maybe I'll enjoy that too. And, the more I have in between me and a drug, the better. So I started going to that, and, I started to build a rapport with my mental health therapist, and, we get along, and I feel like I'm making progress through that.
That's great, man.
Yeah. And on top of that, writing the book.
And I was just going to ask you about that. So, I mean, that's a pretty ambitious thing, man.
Sure.
Everybody's got a book in them, but most people never actually write it. You know? And I was reading it, man. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but I've skimmed through it and everything. And I got to tell you, dude, very articulate, very, like a good voice. And
Thank you.
and that shit drags you in, man. You know what I mean? It really, it's very compelling. So how'd that come about, man? Well, it was like, just like, not everybody's just like, I'm going to write a book today.
Yeah. So I had a lot of time on my hands when I got home. I can't walk. So I'm essentially in a chair or bedridden. So I ended up getting an infection in my leg when I got home, and that led me to have to get surgery in order to clean out a pocket that had formed, and that delayed my my physical therapy to start getting prosthetics. I wasn't able to do that until that healed, and that was going to be 5 or 6 weeks, maybe more. So I'm like, I got this time on my hands. I'm sitting in a hospital bed for a week, so I just started writing. And at first, it was kind of just like a personal journal of some things that happened. And then as I got further into it, I started to remember more and more. And then I wrote it in pieces. It started out in Kensington, and I'm like, well, if I make this something, they're gonna need a backstory. So how did I get here? And what happened after that? And it all just kind of came together into a point where I had gotten in too deep to turn back, but I still had a long way to go. So I just buckled down. I bought a laptop and sat there and I wrote, and I was working on it for, I don't know, 8 to 14-hour days for like, I don't know, like 6 months. And then I would take a break for like a day or two and then jump back into it and just go. And I put it all down and came out the other side with a book. And I named it Kensington Beach because it's ironic.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. It's a good title.
Yeah, they call it Kensington Beach because there's people that are laid out on the sidewalk like they're sunbathing. People go there for kind of this bizarro vacation from life, in the same way you go to the beach to escape your real life. So it just kind of fits.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it. It was like written on this big, almost like a whiteboard, like one of those triangle ones that sits on the ground for like a restaurant. It was written on that outside of this one bando, and it said, "Welcome to Kensington Beach." And I'm like, I like that. Like, I like it a lot. But I had no application for it at the time. And then,
Right.
you know, later in this endeavor, I was like, that would be a good name for the book.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And writing it, man. I mean, how was that? Was it like a real chore? Like, oh, I got to go write this thing, or what was it?
No, I enjoyed pretty much every minute of it, to be honest. Yeah, I was able to tell my story about what happened to me in my own voice. And I did self-publishing, so I didn't have an editor or a company over top of me trying to edit out this or say, you know, that's too much or that's not enough. It was exactly how I wanted it to be, you know. And that was cool about it. But it was also incredibly cathartic and healing
Yeah.
in order to be able to write all this stuff down that happened to me. And you know, the brain's a really interesting thing, and your imagination for something is to your brain no different than actually doing it. So writing it, I'm reliving all these things that happened and all these experiences, and I'm able to deal with them in the safety of my own home versus on the street where I had to kind of compartmentalize and put this stuff away for later and bury it because you can't show weakness. It really was dog eat dog down there, and weakness is capitalized on, and you know, even like I tried to be kind and maintain my personality and who I was, but I had to even limit that in some senses because I like to think I'm a good person, and I will help you if I can, and helping people down there is almost frowned upon, and violence and coldness are rewarded. So I was able to go through all that in a safe place and put it down in the way that I remember it happening. And it was just it really helped me a lot. And I would definitely recommend writing to anyone who's like been through some traumatic stuff, even if it's just for you, even if you never, you know, tell another soul about it, it's definitely going to help you deal with your own stuff. For
There's
sure.
a part in recovery that requires some writing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if you skip it,
You're fucked.
you're fucked.
You definitely are.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it does something for you when you see it in black and white.
Yeah.
Because you can't hide from it because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. It's right there. It's not altered. It's not. It's like I was just listening to this tape. I think it was Jordan Peterson or something. He was like, you know, people that lie. That's why you got to write things down, because if you're lying, you're trying to manipulate reality, and who the hell are you to do something like that? So if you actually want to be better, write it down on paper,
Yeah.
because you can't get away from it. It's black and white. It's clear. It's cut. So how do we get this book? How do listeners go out and get this book? Oh, banging on the table. Yeah,
It's good for a speech, you know.
Yeah,
Hitler used to
yeah,
bang
right.
on the podium a lot.
Yeah.
He was good.
I don't. It was a little different hand signals.
Yeah. Yeah. That was yeah, we don't do that. We
This
don't
is-
do that today.
It's from The Office. It was a joke from The Office. Yeah, you had to see The Office to know. It was a bad joke. My bad.
So how does one go and acquire your book, Kensington Beach?
So it's on Amazon.
Well, we're going to put a link in the description, actually,
Okay.
so anyone watching this can actually just skim down there. Highly recommend it. Very, very interesting. It's like something that you look and you can't stop looking at it. Part of you wants to turn away. You think you should, but it's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and like I said, dude, you're a good writer, bro. Like,
Thank you.
really good writer.
Thank you.
Man.
It's my
But,
first endeavor with writing, so
Yeah.
I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And
Yeah,
like,
that wet brain clearly cleared up.
yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just good to write, you know. Yeah.
Did your family
to
read
go.
it? Family members?
Yeah,
read it?
yeah, my mom read it. Yeah, yeah, my mom read it. A couple of my family members, you know, they bought it and they read it, and a lot of
That'd
good
be therapeutic for them too, to kind of.
to understand. I think where I was at through the whole thing,
Yeah.
versus just looking at me as, you know, this voracious, inhuman drug addict just seeking the next one. Like
They could probably write books on how they felt too. You know?
I'm sure they could. I mean, there was Beautiful Boy and Tweak by Nick Sheff and David Sheff. You know, that was a father-son duo for those books. And, you know, they were successful with that because, I mean, any addiction story is filled with just trauma and darkness, but there's also light within it too.
Sure.
In certain ways, the recovery arc is really beautiful to come from, being almost dead, and it's for any addict who's found recovery is being at your absolute lowest, put into really your best. When someone recovers, they find themselves. I know I did anyway. Like I found, who I wanted to be in a lot of ways, and the kind of person that I wanted to be, versus knowing very clearly what I didn't want to be anymore. So yeah, I call it the quantum slingshot, right? So it's like the further you get pulled back, the further forward you get flung.
So it's good.
Recovery's like that in a lot of ways. Yeah.
How you feeling about recovery these days, man? You still any struggling? Like is it still there in the back of your mind, or do you feel pretty clear?
Yeah, I think once you reach a certain strata of drug addiction, it becomes ingrained in your brain in a way that's never going to fully go away. It gets written in and then carved in a way that's always there. And no matter what happens in your life, you're always going to remember that as a form of escape that worked. But I think, and what I try to do today that's important to me, to keep that as far away from me as I can, is I just try to pursue a better way of life that lets me help people. I want to help people. I want to use my story in order to show people that recovery is possible, even at the lowest that you think you've been. Like, I've probably been lower than most people. And it's not bragging. It's just I've been to the end of the line, and the next step for me was death. And to be able to come back from that and show someone else that maybe hasn't gotten that far, that you don't have to get there, and even if you do, you still can come back. There's always hope. And also to really I want the main message of all of it is to be towards family members, because so in recovery programs, us as addicts see other people who have recovered and are recovering on a daily basis, whereas a family member might still hold a lot of resentment or not understand what was going on, and just harbor that. And I wanted them to be able to understand why an addict does what they do. It's it's mental health, it's brain chemistry.
It's an illness, man.
Yeah, it is. And I almost didn't believe that for a long time, but the more that I researched it, and the more that I just spent time thinking about it, was like, okay, this is deeper than just a moral issue and me, not being a good person, because I think I am a good person. So it's deeper than morals, and it's deeper than ethics, and it really stems into
The spirit,
disease of the mind and spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, I just know too, like for me, it's been a long time since I had any foreign chemicals pumped through my system, but I just remember the last couple years of doing it. I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like on my way to the bar crying, like,
Been there.
don't want to do this anymore. But
Been
I
there.
don't know how to not do it either. It's this weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's an odd experience,
Yeah.
Like a fucking freight train.
Yeah.
Something, please stop me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know, man. How many people here get arrested and there's relief? Finally.
Yeah.
It's
Done a lot of county bids, and they'd be like, "Bly, you look like you're happy to be here." It's like, I am, bud.
something. Please stop
Yeah,
me.
I need a little.
Yeah.
I need to sleep. It's been a
Yeah.
while.
The interview I did on the street, when I was still down there, he asked, do I ever want to get sober? I said, yeah, but I think I'm gonna have to get arrested to stop.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I saw it,
yeah.
And speaking of which, that interview, where could people see that at?
So they can see that on YouTube. It's called Philly Streets, by Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan. And a new interview just came out last week called Budd from Philly Streets. And, that goes into a lot of the story I told here, and, covers some other things as well. So, check it out. Andrew was a really good guy. just high caliber person. You know, he was good to me, and wanted to help me out and you know, help me get back on my feet. And I think he kind of sees the same vision for this as, you know, I do, and probably you guys, which is really just to reach other people who are struggling regarding addiction in any way, whether it's friends, family, or addicts themselves.
And show them that they can, in fact, come back.
You really can. You can come back.
And you did, bro. And I'm fucking proud of you, man. Yeah. Like, I really am. I'm really glad, dude. Like, I saw them fucking news reports, bro, and it was gut wrenching, man, seeing you like that, dude. Just knowing you before, and it was like, man, you know, that's fucking insidious, this fucking illness is. Yeah, it is. It is. And I remember going to rehab one time, and I had just come in. One of the staff asked me how long I'd ever been sober, and I told them, you know, about 5 years. And they're like, their face kind of dropped, and they're like, holy shit, 5 years. I'm like, yeah. Like, why? They're like, I just got 5 years. They're like, there's no safe number. Well, there's absolutely not. Yeah. No. Any one of us could, you know, who the fuck knows? Yeah. And it's better to believe that, you know what I mean? It feels safer to believe that than it does to go thinking that you got this. You know? That's a dangerous thought. If you're ever, you know, if you're in recovery and you start thinking you got this, and you're in control, and you know, you're not touchable anymore, I would highly recommend checking yourself. Yeah. Because that's where I got to. Yeah, man, there's a toolkit. I don't know. I guess there's several of them out there. I know the one that I got, and you start thinking like that, and you stop using the fucking toolkit. Yeah, you do. You know, and then you don't even know it, man. Creeps right the fuck up on you. That's the insidiousness. You don't even know. It's like you're knee deep in the shit before you fucking before you even realize you ever stepped in the first place. Yeah, yeah. It's like quicksand. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like quicksand.
Well, it won't even show up as, for me, it'll show up as anger. Like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I was having a bad morning, and I wanted to kill somebody at Home Depot. I wanted to fight a guy at the dump, and I call my buddy Jay, and he says, hey, Bud. Yeah, how you doing? Maybe it's fucking you. Right. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, it probably is. Yeah. You know? It's got to be me. Yeah. It's like, all right, I got to chill. And it's always me. You know, I don't care what the fuck they did. You know what I mean? Whatever they did. I got no power over that, you know? And it's like, and when I look at it that way, then I fix the thing in here, you know, that's actually going to get me fucking high, you know? Yeah. You forget that for too long. And it's over. It is. What do they say in, you know, one of the 12-step books is money, property, and prestige. Right. And sex. Yeah. Yeah. Money, property, prestige, and sex. And that's where I've always found myself, is when, you know, I care about things more than helping somebody, or a girl, or just how somebody looks at me. When I start to care about that, like, you know, I look at it like it's like a scale, you know, and if I don't have balance, if I'm either too far to one side in recovery or too far to one side in the lack thereof, I'm totally thrown off, in both ways. You know, there's some guys who live for recovery and that's their whole life. And if that works for them, that's great, you know, but I've been there before, and I found myself almost just as crazy as if I wasn't going at all, you know. So yeah, it's all balance, I think, but in order to get to that balance, it's a big learning curve. Well, yeah, you got to get down. You got to explore. You've already been on this side of the spectrum, the extreme spectrum, and then you got to go check this side out. Yeah. And then somewhere in there, your experience will lead you to the middle, you know, the middle road, the one that makes the most sense, you know. But it's a journey, you know. And, start coming back to some 12-step meetings, man. I want to. I stopped by my home group when I first got home, and I checked in with some people and said, hey, you know, I'm still alive, believe it or not. And, you know, that was nice to see everyone, but I haven't really been back since. You know, I could make excuses for it, but, you know, I've had a lot of medical stuff going on, a lot of appointments and this, that, and the other thing. And, you're right. That they are excuses.
Those are excuses.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I went to my first meeting. I walked uphill both ways. Yeah. You know, barefoot in the snow. Yeah. Yeah. They're it's easy to make excuses. So
Like I said, they are, but I recognize that they're excuses at least. I don't justify them. I know I probably should hit a meeting, but I do the mental health stuff, and I do that every week. Mental health and drug and alcohol, and I go to some recovery groups online, and I talk with sober people, and I talk to sober friends.
Yeah, they have a lot of Zoom stuff these days too.
Yeah,
ever since COVID, there's a lot of that shit.
Yeah, I do some stuff like that. It's not the same.
It's not the same as in person, but it is better than nothing.
Yeah,
it is better than nothing. Yeah.
So there's that aspect. Once I get my legs, and I got my legs. I got them 2 days ago.
I seen a video of you. Not too bad. Not too bad. You definitely, I wouldn't trip you yet.
Yeah.
I'll wait another month or two before I trip you.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's good to be walking, man. And once I get better at that, I think I'm going to start, showing up some more.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever, want to go, man, let me know. I'll come scoop you up.
Cool.
Or you ever want to sit down and talk.
Yeah, or even just phone call meeting, cause fucking call some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's and what is it? What is fucking like philosophy, bro? You love that shit.
Yeah.
You're into that shit, man.
Yeah,
like fucking sit around talk existential philosophy, and that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I do it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that stuff's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like that's a good point to end on. Again, Kensington Beach, Budd Rodney. Links in the description. Check it out. Fucking fire. All right, Bly, any last words, man? No?
Thanks for coming back to the comeback. That's it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Right on, man. All right. Okay.
This is The Comeback.